Kate Waring was born in Charleston, South Carolina. She had two siblings and loving parents who tried to give their children the best of everything. From a young age, Kate showed a deep affection for animals and began volunteering at various shelters during her teenage years. She was also a dancer, had many friends, and was a very positive person. Everyone thought she had grown up in a very good environment, and to some extent, this was true. But one day, everything changed. Just before going to college, Kate confided in her parents that someone close to their family had abused her when she was younger. She apparently did not reveal the identity of the individual, as this information is not found anywhere. The revelation was a real shock to Kate's parents. They had no idea what their daughter had been going through for years. After sharing this terrible secret, her mother and father did everything they could to help her, but the consequences of such trauma only seemed to worsen over time. Initially, Kate struggled with alcohol and later with illegal substances. At one point, her parents suggested she undergo therapy, which she accepted. They also encouraged her to move back home and live with her family, which supposedly would also help her cope with her problems. By then, Kate was an adult and lived separately, but despite everything, she agreed to return home. At first, it seemed that therapy was truly having a positive effect, but Kate continued to be unable to shake off the heavy burden of the past and start living life to the fullest. The psychiatrist she visited diagnosed her with depression, but at one point, everything changed. Her father, who was always concerned and striving to help her, suggested taking a trip to any part of the world she chose. Kate was excited by the idea and soon decided she wanted to travel beyond the Arctic Circle. Her dream was to see polar bears, and despite her sad experience, she still felt a great love for animals. They began to look for suitable tours and soon bought tickets for a trip to the Arctic Circle via boat. Kate was eager to embark on this exciting journey. At that point, her parents saw her depressive state being replaced by a cheerful and positive attitude. When they finally took the trip, Kate was delighted. She and her parents had a great time, and she experienced many positive emotions. On the boat that took them to the Arctic Circle, Kate met another Russian tourist. They kept in touch throughout the trip and continued writing to each other afterward. Kate grew fond of him, and sometime after returning home, she decided to go to Russia. There, they reunited, and she even considered staying longer in the country, but was prevented from doing so by visa issues, forcing Kate to return home. Despite this, it seemed that Kate had finally managed to overcome her depression. She planned to resolve her visa issues back home and even started writing a book for her children. It seemed her life was finally getting better. However, on Saturday, June 12, 2009, everything changed. That day, Kate was alone at home while her family was away on a business trip. Kate would always call her father to say everything was fine, but this time she didn't. Concerned, her father tried to call her, but there was no answer. After some time, he asked someone to check on their daughter at home. Given her past problems with alcohol and illegal substances, the parents were worried. Upon arriving home, this person did not find Kate, but strangely, the light in her room was on. It seemed as though Kate had just stepped out and would return soon, but Kate did not appear. It was also discovered that Kate had left important medication at home, which she needed to take regularly. Despite their anxiety, her parents decided not to panic and to wait for her return, considering that Kate was 28 years old at the time and capable of living her own life. Her father decided to wait until Monday, after which he planned to call the police. On Monday morning, the father received a call from the bank. An employee informed him that a man had attempted to cash a check for over $4,000 signed by Kate Waring. They couldn't reach Kate herself, and her father was listed as a co-signer on her account. The situation seemed extremely odd. The father knew for certain that his daughter only had a few hundred in her account. That was why the bank security decided to contact him. However, Kate's signature on the check appeared authentic. They also provided the name of the man who had brought in the check, Ethan Mack. The father did not recognize him, but since the bank authenticated Kate's signature, he assumed the man was an acquaintance of his daughter. Nevertheless, he decided to contact the police, as Kate was still unreachable. Detectives began to investigate the woman's disappearance and first questioned Ethan Mack. He claimed to have known Kate for years and that she had written the check to settle old debts. According to Ethan, he frequently gave Kate money for clothing, jewelry, and other purchases. Conversations with Kate's friends revealed that she had been friends with Ethan for an extended period. They indicated that there had never been a romantic relationship between the two, but they were always close. Ethan claimed that he and Kate met on Friday night and went out for dinner at a restaurant. Afterwards, he drove her home and left for his own affairs. He even showed detectives correspondence with Kate, which confirmed his account of their dinner. Ethan allowed the detectives to search his house where he lived with his mother, as well as his car. Nothing suspicious was found during the search, but the police still found the situation regarding a check to be odd and were not quick to dismiss him as a suspect. Eventually, Ethan called the police station, forcefully requesting to be left alone. The police tried to reconstruct the timeline of the Friday night when Kate was last seen. She had seen her therapist in the afternoon, then went to the gym. Afterwards, she entered a store and bought a bottle of wine. Security cameras captured her talking to someone on the phone at that time. According to the investigation, it is possible that she was speaking with Ethan, who later picked her up and they went to a restaurant. Kate's parents recalled another disturbing fact. On the day she disappeared, Kate had told them she was having some problems but declined to specify the nature of these issues. Her parents did not recall this conversation until a few days later. Unfortunately, this information did not aid the search. As weeks passed, Kate remained unlocated. Her parents felt the police were not doing enough, considering Kate's troubled past. In August, however, the case was revitalized when it was taken up by a group of former police officers led by a lawyer named Andy Savage. This group had been privately investigating unresolved cases, and Kate Waring's case caught their interest. The team consisted of 5 individuals, each with extensive police experience. One of them, former Detective James Randall, first examined Kate's bedroom and noted 2 suspicious elements. Firstly, he was struck by a packet of medication that Kate regularly took. Her parents confirmed she would never intentionally stop taking her medication, so the fact that the packet was left at home was highly concerning. Secondly, he found Chinese currency on Kate's bed, which was peculiar because her parents had no idea where she had obtained it or why she needed it. Another team member, Bobby Mitter, who specialized in gathering online information about individuals and tracking them, was then involved. His skills proved invaluable. He quickly found that, on the night of her disappearance around 10 p.m., Kate had called her friend James, who did not answer the phone. She then left him a very troubling voicemail, claiming someone had stolen her credit cards. He also revealed that her phone was last active at 1:53 a.m., when for some reason she called her own voicemail. Member Lewis discovered that the call was made from the area of James Island, which was a few kilometers from Kate's house. Another team member, former homicide detective Eugene Fraser, learned something intriguing. He spoke with several acquaintances living in James Island and found it odd that Ethan Mack, who had voluntarily let the police inspect his mother's home, did not actually live there. Instead, he rented an apartment in a nearby building. Eugene was fortunate to uncover these details, since one of his acquaintances happened to be the landlord of the apartment Ethan had rented. Digging deeper, the team of detectives realized the police had not conducted a proper investigation into Ethan. They had only performed a superficial check of his mother's house. The team decided to investigate on their own and found that Ethan had a girlfriend named Heather Camp. When they asked Kate's parents if they knew the woman, her mother recalled a strange story. Kate had met Heather about a month before she disappeared on a train from Washington, D.C., where Kate had been having issues with her visa for Russia. After meeting her on the train, Heather told Kate that she had been robbed of her wallet and now had nothing to live on. Kate agreed to help and lend her a significant amount of money. Heather claimed she had landed a job as a pediatric surgeon in South Carolina and was supposed to start in the coming days. Later, Heather announced that her daughter had died in a car crash in New Jersey, and her behavior appeared completely irrational. She did not go there, and her demeanor suggested that her daughter's death did not affect her greatly. The detective team discovered another curious fact. Heather was facing a fraud case in Indiana. The charge was that she had been posing as a licensed doctor by falsifying the necessary documents. The team thus gathered an impressive set of data that forced them to look at the case from a different angle. They passed all this information to the police, but the police were completely reluctant to continue the investigation. The team realized that the only way to get the police to take action was to present incontrovertible evidence that implicated Heather in Kate's disappearance. To achieve this, the team took extreme measures. First, they asked the person who rented the apartment to Ethan Mack to install a hidden camera in front of his apartment door. Moreover, they installed a hidden GPS tracker in Ethan's car. This allowed the team to monitor his movements and see what he was doing. It didn't take long to bear fruit. After examining Ethan's travel patterns, the detectives discovered that he had stopped at numerous pawn shops around the city. They followed his trail and found out that at each of these pawn shops the man was selling various pieces of jewelry in small batches. Unfortunately, they couldn't ascertain if the jewelry belonged to Kate, but the detectives felt they were getting closer to a clue. After some time, they encountered a serious problem. The landlord of the apartment where Ethan and Heather were staying informed them that he was going to evict them for non-payment. The team realized that if he did, they would lose the chance to watch their behavior and movements. So they made an effort to persuade the landlord not to do it. Along with this, the detectives urgently devised a new plan. They asked the landlord to give Ethan and Heather an extra period to pay the rent, but with one condition. Both had to sign an agreement committing to clear this debt in any case. This strategy worked. As soon as the landlord gave the team this contract, they sent it immediately to the laboratory. The objective was simple: to compare the handwriting of Ethan and Heather with Kate's signature on the check for $4,000. And here they had a pleasant breakthrough. The handwriting expert confirmed with absolute certainty that the signature on the check was from the same person who had signed Heather's name on the contract. This meant that it was Heather who had forged Kate's signature. But the team was well aware that the sluggish police would still not want to listen to them. They had to find something else and devised a new plan. They convinced the landlord to go along with it, and he told Ethan that the apartment needed to be treated for insects. The team leader put on an exterminator suit and went to the apartment with the landlord. Before that, the detectives waited until Ethan had left the apartment. Realizing that his car had moved away from the house, the investigator and the landlord entered. They faced an unpleasant surprise. Ethan was at home. It turned out Heather was driving his car, but it was too late to cancel the whole operation, so the investigator had to change the plan. They kept insisting on the necessity of fumigating and asked Ethan to wait outside the apartment while the dangerous chemicals were sprayed. Ethan, suspecting nothing, agreed and left. At the same time, the investigator began to carefully search the apartment for any evidence that could link Ethan to Kate's disappearance. He noticed Ethan's backpack and examined its contents. There awaited their first clue: Chinese money. As we recall, the same notes were on Kate's bed. But that's where their luck ran out. He couldn't find any other potential clues. He and the landlord pretended to complete the treatment and left. The team needed a new plan again. Upon reviewing the footage from the camera in front of Ethan's apartment, they realized that there was a man who entered very often. It turned out to be a neighbor of the couple named Terry Williams. The detectives speculated that he might know something about Ethan and Heather's involvement in Kate's disappearance. So the team took a risky step. They decided to offer Williams a significant sum of money if he told the police what his friends had done to Kate. They took the bag of money and went to Williams's apartment with this offer: But here the detectives were met with a quite unexpected twist. At the time when Williams was approached and informed of the situation, Heather was at her own home and overheard everything. Apparently, there was a discussion involving Ethan and Williams when the detective started speaking with her lover. Heather panicked. She called Ethan and hysterically explained what had happened. The investigation team did not expect this and spent the following days trying to figure out what to do next. Then another surprise occurred. Williams called them and invited them to his house to talk. The detectives arrived at his apartment and Williams spoke up. He claimed that Ethan and Heather had not directly told him anything, but he suspected that the couple had done something wrong to Kate. He then took an iPod from the shelf and revealed that Heather had given it to him shortly after Kate's disappearance, and Williams had assumed that the player belonged to Kate. The team examined the iPod and, thanks to its serial number, was able to confirm that it belonged to Kate. This set of clues was sufficient for them to return to the police department. This time, the local police could no longer dismiss the case. After reviewing all the evidence the team had uncovered, they finally arrested Ethan and Heather. During the initial interrogation, Heather agreed to cooperate with the investigation in exchange for a reduced sentence. She claimed that Kate's body was on Wadmalaw Island, about 20 miles from her house. The police sent a search team and scoured the area all day, but Kate's body was not there. It soon became clear that Heather had misled them. Then Andy Savage decided to employ another tactic. He realized that Heather was probably directly involved in Kate's murder, so he met with her and promised to help. Andy offered her a deal. He would do what was necessary to get her off the forgery charges, and in return, she would have to reveal the exact location of Kate's body. Heather, believing it was her only chance, agreed. She indicated that Kate's body was still on the outskirts of Wadmalaw Island and gave a detailed description of the location. The team of detectives decided to go there without the police and faced disappointment. They did not find Kate. But they returned the next day and finally made a discovery. They found the remains of the young woman. The forensic doctors could not determine the cause of death, but the culprit soon began to confess. In August 2009, Heather signed a confession for murder, obstruction of justice, and bank check forgery. The police discovered that she had been committing fraud for years and had selected Kate as her next victim during a trip from Washington. Later, she met Ethan and started a relationship with him. As for Ethan, he was not quick to plead guilty, and his trial began in October 2010. Based on Heather's testimony, the prosecution reconstructed the events of the disappearance. According to her story, on the day Kate disappeared, she found out that Heather had deceived her and also stolen her credit cards. Kate threatened to tell her father, who would likely involve the police. Heather told Ethan, who took her side despite his long friendship with Kate. According to the investigation, Kate was not just having dinner with Ethan that night. Heather was also present. It seems that the pair was trying to negotiate with Kate to prevent her from revealing the deception. At the restaurant, Heather may have promised Kate to return the credit cards and the money that had been at Ethan's apartment. When the three arrived there, Heather and Ethan might have waited for the right moment to end her life. The court questioned Heather's version of events and eventually sentenced her to 39 years in prison. As for Ethan, he was slightly luckier. He was sentenced to 25 years. The only difference was that Heather was also charged with fraud. And with that, we conclude today's case. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon so you can be the first to hear about such real-life stories.